This is the YOB ConvoCast, one-on-one conversations with your other brother's authors, community members, supporters, and friends.
What's up, friends, and welcome to the YOB ConvoCast. We are full steam ahead on our spin-off show. I feel like it's no longer a spin-off. It's just its own entity. It's its own show. This is episode 3 of the new season, episode 25 overall. And we have another delightful repeat guest on the heels of our Londonian Filipino friend, Daniel. We have another returning guest who previously appeared on a ConvoCast. He's a phenomenal blogger, author, contributor on our site. He's joining us once again. He's YOB's pastor, to be debated with Will. I don't know. Who's YOB's pastor, Ben? Is it you or Will?
Both of us talk to one another, so we can split the load.
There you go.
And if you don't like what I have to say, maybe go talk to him instead.
Yeah, we're like one of those churches who what's the terminology? If a church doesn't have one single pastor, they have like a quorum of pastors or something. Is there a specific term for that?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a cohort of pastors.
A cohort. Yeah. What's a flock of pastors called? In any case, whether you're YOB's pastor, Will, it's a combination of the two. It's good to have you back, Ben. How has it been since we last heard your voice many months ago?
Yeah, I feel like if we could erase 2020 and start over again, I'm not sure I'd do it. But no, it's been, let's call it a learning experience. The last year has been a learning experience. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, but overall on the other end of it, better, stronger, hopefully wiser, and a few more gray hairs and a little bit older. So yeah, doing okay.
A few more gray hairs, but then I was commenting just before we started recording, you look fresh. You look younger than I've ever seen you, with a clean shaven look. So you've got that going for you.
Yeah, it was definitely time. When you don't get carded anymore, when you're used to getting carded, yeah, time to go back.
It's nice to get carded again. Let's all get carded again. I was telling you, I'm about to go to my brother's wedding in a couple of weeks now. I mean, it's crazy that it's coming this quickly, but listeners, viewers, supporters will know that I've been growing out my hair for the last year. I've not gone within 100 yards of a barber shop since COVID hit. A lot of that's just been paranoia, and a lot of it's just been kind of like pride. Like, you know what? I am able to grow my hair out, and so many blessed men in our community, my heart goes out to you. They're not able to grow their hair out anymore. And I just am like wanting to just, however long I'm able to, like, this has been an opportunity to experiment in healthy ways of growing my hair out. But I am, all that to say that the Tom shaggy hair era is coming to an end soon, as I prepare to get spiffy for my brother's wedding. So it'll be sad, but it'll be hopefully a rejuvenation for me as well.
You might consider. I've got a friend who was who is a stylist, and so before Revoice 2 years ago, I'd had the same haircut for like 8 years, and I went to him and I said, "Okay, you know what my profession is. You know me. I'm giving you complete artistic license over my head.
Wow,
go." And I don't regret it. Don't regret it at all.
That's really nice. Like I don't have an eye for that. Like I feel like most of my life, my haircuts have been really safe and just really predictable, but I like kind of want to experiment again in healthy ways of like, what's a way based on like my proportions of the size of my forehead or the angles of my jaw, or, I want the scientific approach of what would be the best haircut. And I don't have the answers to that. So maybe you can shoot your friend a headshot and give me some feedback. Cause I want to be as presentable as possible.
I don't regret it. If you've got somebody you trust that, knows what they're doing, they can do wonderful things.
If any listeners out there, if you are proficient in haircut knowledge, if you know the proper haircut for the proper head shape and size, please reach out to me in the next 10 days. I would love to get as picturesque as possible. That's the goal here, because these pictures will follow me until the day I die that are going to be taken on that day. So yeah. Well, Ben, something I wanted to bring up with you, because we had a digital retreat a few months ago, which was so great. And again, I will continue to sing Daniel's praises as long as I have breath in my lungs, because I had such minimal expectations for that thing. I was like, oh, this is just going to be a glorified Zoom call. Like, it's not going to be anything special. But it turned out to be quite special, actually. And you participated in the preparation for that, the planning, the prayer. And you even got to share some of your heart one night over Zoom with however many guys were there that night, 30, 35 guys. And so I just wanted to thank you for that. Thank you for contributing. For those that weren't at the retreat, what is just a snapshot of what you shared that night with our YOBBERS?
Yeah, something that's been near and dear to my heart in my own church right now, even this idea of what does it look like to be intentional community to one another, chosen family. Are there people within our congregation that feel alone, unseen, unknown? How do we cultivate an atmosphere that welcomes and invites them in and lets them know you are loved, you are valued. You don't have to hide, the pieces of yourself that you might consider broken. The church is supposed to be a hospital more than it is a country club. And so, yeah, for the YOB retreat, just looking at that lens of how do we cultivate that within our group, allow people to be able to say, here's what's going on in my head and my heart, and be safe spaces for that. And then also a little bit of a challenge of, for those of us that have the ability, how do we go back into our churches and take that attitude and mentality and cultivate safe spaces for other people as well?
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, it was such a great message. Great to hear from you in your heart. And we have so many. We were joking about Will being a pastor too, but like there's so many other people in our community, authors and YOB members, community members, who are also involved in active ministry in some capacity, whether they're on a payroll with a church or leading a small group or what have you. So I'm really grateful for all of the ministry, so many great hearts in our community. So thanks for being one of many, Ben. I'm glad we found you. I don't know, how did you refresh our minds? How did you get here again? How did you find the wonderful world of YOB?
I had a decent amount of face-to-face community during what I refer to as my second coming out period. For 6 years, I hadn't talked about my sexuality. Told my wife before we got married.
You can never have too many comings out. Yeah, it's good to just keep doing that again and again.
Yeah, until I guess one day the big reveal, so to speak. But 6 years into marriage, I realized this is still a part of life. It's not going away. Not that we necessarily expected it to, but we didn't know what to expect. So 6 years in, found community, started talking about my sexuality again, and then took the role that I'm in currently at my church and had to move and was thinking, what am I going to do? Because, I've taken this time to cultivate people who know my story, and I don't know if I'm going to have that going into this church. I want to make sure that I have, some sort of community, some sort of support, that no matter where I go, because pastors don't always stay in the same place for very long, that I'll be able to take that with me. And I had a friend who had read some of the blogs and had listened to some of the podcasts, and he said, hey, you should really check this group out. And I hear that they have a secret Facebook group. And so that's how I originally heard about YOB.
Now we have a top secret Discord server too. Who knows what our next top secret community environment will be. But I really love that you found us through word of mouth, through someone else. Like, that is making me just more and more happy the more I hear that. I mean, this was a little while ago, right? A couple of years now. So it's happening even more since you found us. Like, it's becoming more and more common that people are finding us through friends, through someone that they know, and not explicitly from a Google search, which used to be the only way you could really find us. So that's just super, super cool, super encouraging. So Ben, is there anything that you would like to discuss in our remaining time here today? I know it's been a long time since you have been on this ConvoCast.
First, did you hear about the guy who faked skin disease so that people would give him money?
Is this a joke? Wait, I wasn't paying attention. Say that again. Did I hear about the guy who what?
Hear about the guy who faked a skin disease so that people would give him money?
No, I did not hear about this man.
Yeah, he was a leprechaun.
It's good.
Happy St.
It's
Patrick's Day.
I was gonna say it's topical, listeners, because it is St. Patrick's Day on this day of recording. So there is that. So it may not make more sense a couple days from now when this comes out, but for now it makes sense.
Everything that I say always makes sense.
It's always topical, so relevant. Yeah.
Context matters. So yeah, going into the YOBBERS retreat, there were a group of us that decided to connect outside of that, a group of us married guys. So we set up a monthly Zoom conversation, which is actually going to be tomorrow night. And yeah, we talk life, we talk marriage, and out of that, guys have talked about their experiences of coming out to their significant others. Some of them came out before they were married. Some came out after, and it's sometimes a really hard conversation to have. And so out of that, guys were asking, like, is there a right way to do this? Is there a wrong way to do this? And so I ended up writing a blog post based kind of on my own experience, but also on these other guys, to kind of give people a framework for how do you have this conversation? Because I know that for me, I told my wife before we got married, but we didn't talk about it again for another 6 years. It was like the button got paused, and it wasn't a life conversation. And then when I did start talking about things, at first it was hard, it was awkward. And it's gotten a lot better since then. So upcoming blog post, how to come out to your significant other. And the idea is it's a draft letter that whether somebody is, in a dating relationship or, if they're already years into marriage and have never had this conversation, for them to be able to even just print it out and say, sweetie, I got something I want you to read. Please receive it with an open heart, and then having that be a basis for starting conversation. And in the works behind that, actually, one that people can give to their pastors, like an anonymous drop, so to speak, to say, hey, there's somebody in your church that experiences attraction to the same sex, and you're reading this because they want to let you know that they're here and they're looking for community, they're looking for understanding, and here's some things that you can do to engage with and walk with these people who are in your church. So I'm excited about that.
I'm glad you brought that up, Ben, because when we were planning this podcast, I was thinking like that could actually be really cool if we coordinate it so that you come on the ConvoCast and then your blog comes out around the same time. That way people can like connect the two. And I think in the future, so that blog, listeners, stay tuned because that blog will be coming very soon to yourotherbrothers.com. Hopefully in the next few days, depending on when you are listening to this. Or if you're listening to it 50 years from the future, just find Ben's posts. You'll find it. It's already a thing. It exists. But I would love, as this ConvoCast becomes more routine and more scheduled, and as we figure out what this show is, because we're still kind of figuring out what is this 20-minute show. I think it'd be really cool to align it with authors when their blogs come out, and to have sort of either a part 2 or in your case, sort of like a foreshadowing. What's the word? I don't know. Foreshadowing's fine. We'll just go with that. A little teaser, let's say, of what's to come. And I think that could be fun to like make the rounds with all of our different authors, and to have a little extension of the blog post in audio form. So who knows? Maybe that'll be more of a thing with increasing regularity as we get into the rhythm of this every other week show, and get to meet as many different people in the YOB community as we can. So that's really cool. I'm excited. I'm really like touched that the married guys in our group have found one another, and that I feel like this is a long time coming. I'm sure married guys over the years have gotten together on a smaller scale with just, 1 or 2 people hanging out or talking or whatever. But to have like organized Zoom calls or like even on our Discord now, we have a private channel just for our married guys, and they can like, I don't know. I'm not married, so I don't follow the conversation, but they can just talk. And I think we have 10 or 15 married guys on that channel. And it's just really cool. Like if any listeners are out there listening, if you're married, if you feel alone or trapped or whatever feelings you might feel about being in a mixed orientation marriage, if that's the language you use to describe your marriage, then yeah, just know it's like there's so many guys in YOB who are in similar boats. And it's really cool, Ben, to hear you share about how these guys have all been connecting. Like that's super, super touching to hear.
Yeah, it's been a blessing to me as well. To be able to have other guys to be able to talk with about my own experiences, and then yeah, I love and I value my single friends that I get to talk with about these things, but to have other people who are going through a lot of the same things in life, just that's something that I've been lacking, that I've been able to get more and more of recently. So
super cool. And that's actually a really good segue to our last thing that I kind of wanted to bring up with you, which was as specifically as a pastor, but I mean, really this can apply to anyone in ministry, but for someone pastoring a church, like, I've always been kind of curious, not only for you, but other pastors, like, where do you draw from? Because a lot of people will inevitably go to their pastors as their shepherds, as their leaders, as their mentors, whatever jargon you want to use. And that's a super cool thing. I think God puts pastors over people, and ministers over people, in really special ways to be able to meet needs and to be able to encourage and affirm and just like, yeah, help us wayward sheep stay on our path, or have someone to talk to and have a listening voice. But I'm always curious about, like, but then where did those people go? Because they're not gods. They're not like perfect. They're not without temptation. They're not without sin. And how do you personally, like how or where or with who do you draw strength from as someone who is leading a flock, so to speak?
I've got a couple of different groups that I'm connected with. A couple guys that I went to seminary with. We're in a messenger chat where if it's not every day, then I'd say it's 5 out of 7 days. We're messaging one another about what's going on in our lives, in our churches, how we can be praying for one another. Sometimes it's a rant, hey, this happened, and just, and yep, been there. Got one of those in my church too.
I would love to see like a group message of pastors and read pastor rants. Like that would probably be thoroughly entertaining, but also a great source of rapport, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. And these are guys that they know the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's transparency with them, and that's that's an accountability type thing, but it's also a iron on iron. Sometimes if I'm going through something and being able to say, hey, yeah, this is where I'm at, I've screwed up, to be able to have somebody else say there's grace, there's restoration, and for me to be able to do that for them in return. There's an element there of being able to try to find that within your own congregation, but yeah, in seminary, in undergrad, we were told, have your people in your church who know you well, but also make sure that your main source of support exists outside of your local church.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do have a few people in my church that know my storyline, that are part of everyday life here, that I'm able to lean on as well, and I appreciate them a lot. Yeah, they love me and they love my wife well.
That's awesome. Yeah. And the deeper I go into this YOB venture, the more I'm seeing YOB as ministry, especially now that we have our Discord. I feel like there's a lot more opportunity for smaller group interaction and more of an ongoingness to connecting with people rather than just like more of a distant Facebook group or the comments section on our blog page. It's like there are opportunities to connect, but they're not like ongoing, regular, and consistent. And the more YOB grows and the more like interconnected people are getting with one another, the more we focus on discipleship and how do we actually, where is the ship going? Where are we going? How can we grow as believers and not just get in the boat and capsize? Like, how do we go somewhere? And I've kind of like taken a similar approach. It's not to say I don't have close friends within YOB, because I certainly do. Like some of my dearest friends have come out of YOB, but I also do need, like, me personally, I need that outside, something outside of this world, speaking wisdom, speaking life, speaking affirmation, and speaking truth into me, as well. And so I see a lot of parallels. It's certainly not the same thing, what I do and what you do, but there's some crossover, there's some parallel, and I can see similar paths that I've taken to kind of in my best effort to be healthy and to feel rejuvenated as much as possible. Because I don't know, I'm sure you would echo this, Ben. People can be a lot. People are a lot sometimes.
Oh yeah, people
Is that
can
true?
be a lot for sure. I mean, I know I can be a lot. So
Oh yeah.
So something to the point, like you say, me being a pastor, maybe it's a little bit different, but I guess one thing that I've said from the pulpit before, and this is something that gets drilled in at seminary, but it's not just for pastors, not just for seminarians. The call to follow Jesus is the call to be a disciple. And those disciples are supposed to go and make more disciples. And so I guess you could say the framework that I was told is, in everybody's life, there needs to be a Paul, a Barnabas, and a Timothy. So the Paul is the person, who's over you, who's mentoring you, who's pouring into you. And then the Barnabas is, Paul's missionary companion. So you've got somebody at your same level. You're doing life together. You're walking together. You're growing together. And then there's the Timothy, the person that you're pouring into, that you're discipling. And I think that, whether a person's a pastor, whether they're, a writer, a blogger, a teacher, whatever, there's that element of asking, who's pouring into me, who's walking with me, and who do I have the opportunity to be able to pour into? And I find that when we're pouring into other people is often the times when we experience the most growth.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's super wise, super relevant. And it's my hope that anyone listening that, you can find those three people in your life. I've definitely been on a mission to, I guess it goes both ways. Like, I found plenty of people to journey alongside through YOB, and that's been such a blessing. And so it's been kind of my mission in the last few years now, maybe, of like trying to find those other two sides, the Pauls, the Timothys, and, making progress day by day. Thank you, Ben, for coming on. If you guys who are listening, if you have never checked out Ben's stuff, he's quite gifted at the written word. If you enjoyed his audible word today, check the link in our description. You can read his posts. Depending, again, on when you're listening to this, you might be able to read the blog post that he spoke into existence today. So check that out, or at least if it's not there yet, check it out in the next few days from the release date of this podcast. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about YOB, our website's yourotherbrothers.com. If you're not already familiar with it, it's recently redesigned by our wonder boy, Daniel. Once again, giving some love to Daniel. And if you're interested in joining, we mentioned the Facebook group, the Discord, all that goodness, become a part of our Patreon community. We would love to have you. There's always room for one more. Go to patreon.com/yourotherbros for all that information. Ben, thank you so much for being here. I hope you will come back again soon.
My pleasure, Tom. Thanks for having me on. Always good.
Always a pleasure. Remember, friends, you're not alone. Because we're still in a pandemic, even the sparrow stays at home. I really can't wait until we can change that and make it something else. But for now, stay at home, you guys, and we'll talk again very soon. See ya.